Freddy Krueger. Everybody knows him, almost everybody loves him. Freddy Krueger absolutely dominated horror in the 80s, being one of the first horror icons to truly break through mainstream media. He was a true pop culture horror icon, and that's mainly due to the charm that Freddy Krueger has. Unlike Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger actually had a personality, being both sadistic and humorous at the same time, all while being a sadistic, unique character out of all of the slashers. Freddy Krueger has been a horror mainstay for years and is still very popular to this day. And it all started right here with this film. So kick back, relax, and don't fall asleep, because today we're talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street. So let's get spooky. Greetings everyone, my name is Nightshade. This is The Night Shift, a home for all things spooky, and today we're taking a look at A Nightmare on Elm Street, released in 1984. Now this one has been like one of the most requested franchises to be reviewed here on the channel, and we're finally delivering. Nightmare on Elm Street was the second horror film that I ever watched in my entire life. I've told this story before, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again for all of the newcomers to the channel. Back in the day, my mom rented Scream on VHS, and I wasn't allowed to watch it. However, I snuck into the living room while she was sleeping and put it on and watched the whole thing, and she caught me watching it like right there at the end, right whenever Billy and Stu were stabbing each other in the kitchen. My mom was very convinced that I was going to have all of these horrible nightmares and I was going to be scared, and that just wasn't the case. I thought Scream was a lot of fun, and I guess my mom took that as a challenge to find a movie that would actually freak me out. So we checked out A Nightmare on Elm Street because he was a living embodiment of a nightmare with finger knives, and he was horribly burned, and she was convinced that was going to scare me, and it didn't, but I had a great time. And then after that, you know, my mom realized, oh, you know, he's not scared of these movies, so let's go ahead and let him watch as many as he wants. W Mom. Mom has definitely been the biggest proponent for my lifelong horror addiction / obsession. But ever since I was a kid, you know, I was introduced to Freddy Krueger, and I thought he was really cool. Like, he was never my favorite, but he's always been up there. There was actually a kid in 3rd grade, from 3rd grade on up to 5th grade, that dressed up like Freddy Krueger every single year for Halloween, and the makeup was actually really good too. So like, he was always Freddy Krueger, and I was Ghostface from 3rd grade to 4th grade, and then Jason in 5th grade. I wonder whatever happened to that kid. I think about him often. Anyways, I'm starting to get a little sidetracked. ADD is a serious thing, folks. But anyways, I'm super stoked to get into this review, so let's go ahead and do that now. If you're new to the channel, I don't do movie reviews the same way everybody else does. I'm not going to talk beat for beat with the story and give my criticisms along the way. You can watch the film for yourself and get your own informed opinion on them. Instead, what I like to do is I like to break it down into 2 categories, the positives and the negatives, let you know what I liked about the film and what I didn't like about the film. After that, I'm going to talk about my favorite scene in the film and tell you exactly why it is my favorite scene. Then after that, we will score this out of a possible 10 and end the video. But here on The Night Shift, we always start things on the bright side with Now, I do like the story of this film because it is a departure from like the horror by numbers, slasher by numbers of like the rest of the films of the 80s. A group of teenagers start having similar dreams of a burnt man with finger knives. That man's name is Freddy Krueger, of course. And he starts picking them off one by one, and as the story unfolds, we learn that these are the kids of parents who killed Freddy Krueger in the past. They trapped him in a building and set him on fire, and then he becomes a dream demon and starts killing these kids out of revenge. And that's just the basic bare bones of the story. I'm sure you've seen it, you know how it goes, so I don't really have to explain much more. And if you're one of the rare folks that haven't seen this movie, well then, I highly recommend going and checking it out. So it's a very unique take on a slasher film. Like, it's not like anything else that has been put out before, and there's nothing that's been quite as unique that has come out since. Dream demons, fucking spooky. So let's keep this spooky train running and move into our next positive, which is So this one's not just cast, but also characters. We get a nice solid cast of characters here. Johnny Depp as Glenn. I think this is his cinematic debut, first film that he ever did. Also get Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy Thompson, who's like the main character of this film. And she's like one of my favorite final girls. Like, she's definitely in the top 5. Also, when rewatching this, I completely forgot that Lynn Shay was the teacher in this. She's the lady from the Insidious films, and she's all over horror. And I had completely forgot that she was the teacher in this film. So that was a nice little pleasant surprise. And of course, we get Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, which we will talk more on later in the video. But yeah, this is a nice cast of characters. Like the cast is perfectly campy for what this is. I think that for what this film is and how old it is, I think it still kind of holds up. Like, I mean, it's all depending on your tastes, right? I'm sure there's a few like youngins out there that you know think this is an old lame movie, but I like it. I like the cast of characters in here, and it's got a certain charm about it. Especially with some of the bad acting. I think it's the perfect balance of camp and horror, and I have a good time, and that's all thanks to the cast of this film. And with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next positive, which is... So although the body count isn't that high, I don't think Freddy Krueger goes for volume, but he does have really cool kills. And this film pretty much set the tone because there is a lot of really cool kills in this movie. Like, honestly, the only one that's kind of lame is Rod's death, where he gets hung in the prison. Other than that, everybody else's kills are really cool. You know, with the concept of a dream demon, honestly, like, there's no limitations to the creativity of the kills that we can get. I personally would love to see another Nightmare on Elm Street film come out anytime, because it would be really cool with some of the effects and some of the makeup effects. It's all been updated, and I would love to see that, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But, you know, I love me some good kills, and this one has some pretty cool ones to speak of. And that's actually going to lead me to my next positive, which is... practical effects are always the best. Like, CGI can be cool. Like, it can be done. But whenever you do something and work really hard at making it look realistic in camera without any post-processing, it's just substantially better. And this film is filled with really cool practical effects. Like, one of my all-time favorite scenes in this movie is whenever Nancy's sleeping and Freddy comes through the wall and he's like looking around, and it's just a piece of sheet that is, you know, tightly stretched, but the effect is so fucking cool looking. Like, in the remake, they tried to do the CGI version, and it's just nowhere near as cool. Not to mention, you know, Tina's death. So my light went out. That actually scared the shit out of me. 1 second. Sorry about that. The damn light overheated, so I had to wait like 20 minutes. So that was annoying. Anyways, where was I at? Oh yes, practical effects. Tina's death was also a great product of practical effects. They created a giant rig, so that way they could really sell the effect that she was climbing up the walls, and they did a really good job of filming that. So they had like Rod sitting in a corner, and he was strapped down, and all of the furniture was bolted down as well, and then they strapped down the camera, so like whenever you're seeing that shot, the room is actually spinning, and so it looks like she's being dragged up the walls, and it's a masterfully done shot as well. You just can't beat practical effects. You can't do it. Although AI may try, it still cannot succeed. And, you know, honestly, I think that's why I love 70s, 80s, and 90s slashers, because, you know, they really put forth an effort to sell an effect, and you just can't beat it. Practical effects for me, always going to be a win, always going to be a positive. So let's go ahead and move on to my next positive, which is...
This is God.
Freddy Krueger is obviously one of the biggest positives that I have about this film. You know, in order to have a good slasher flick, you have to have a really good slasher villain, and Freddy Krueger is absolutely a great slasher villain. And this is a rare instance whenever, you know, the slasher himself has personality. You know, Jason, Michael Myers, those two are void of any personality. They are just soulless husks ready for killing. No personality whatsoever. Freddy, on the other hand, great shit talker. Although Freddy's personality isn't 100% fully realized yet. That comes later in like part 3. But you know, he still has fun. And still talks a lot of shit. And much like most slasher flicks, like, he doesn't get really good until later sequels. And the fact that, you know, he's a dream demon with finger knives that, like, which, gotta say, that's probably a really impractical killing weapon, but it's fun. The fact that he's got a personality, he has a very unique and different modus operandi than other slashers of the 80s. All of that combined together makes one pretty excellent slasher, in my opinion. Not to mention, you know, Robert Englund crushed it in this role. Like, he understood the assignment and did his damnedest, like a true thespian would. I genuinely believe if they moved to a different actor in, you know, later sequels, that Freddy Krueger wouldn't have been as popular as he is. I really like the fact that it was one actor for the longest time, and he got to improve and evolve his character as the franchise progressed, which again solidifies why Robert Englund is such a good Freddy Krueger, because, you know, you can't have one without the other. They tried and failed miserably, at least in my opinion. I know there's a handful of fans of the remake, but I'm not one of them. Spoiler alert for future videos. And yeah, this whole franchise wouldn't be shit without Freddy Krueger. So obviously Freddy Krueger is going to make it on the positives list. Now on to my final positive, which is... this movie is absolutely a classic. Like, there's no questioning that. You know, Freddy Krueger is on a lot of people's horror movie icon Mount Rushmores, and through the years, Freddy Krueger has made horror fun. It doesn't always have to be terribly scary. There can be goofs and gaffes to be had within the horror niche. I truly believe that Wes Craven fucking cooked making this film, because it is absolutely a classic, and if it wasn't for this film, we wouldn't have gotten the sequels, and if we didn't get the sequels, we wouldn't have cool slashers nowadays like Art the Clown. I truly believe that Art the Clown is entirely based off of Freddy Krueger, just mute. He's a mute Freddy Krueger. Personality wise, of course. Damien Leone even said, you know, he's Freddy Krueger that doesn't talk. Like, that was the personality he was going for. It's an instant classic for all of us old head horror fans, and even some of the new generation of horror fans. Like, it's classic. It laid the groundwork for a lot of horror today, and honestly, horror is in a pretty good spot right now. This film will always be a classic in my book, and a lot of other people's books as well. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that this one is one of those films that truly changed the landscape of horror. Like, this film showed that you can evolve the concept of a slasher, so then we would get our Chuckies, our Art the Clowns, our ghost faces even. This film laid the groundwork for evolution of the slasher genre, and for that, it gets my utmost undying respect. And just like that, we are out of positives, so now it's time we move on to the not so bright side of things with... For me personally, I have no negatives with this, but I will extend an olive branch for, you know, some of the new fans of horror that are just now getting into horror, such as the acting. The acting in this is a little bit rough. It's a little bit amateur hour. For me, it's not a negative. I think that it adds a certain charm to the film, but other people might not like it. Also, very well could be my biases towards this film because, you know, like I said, this is a movie that I absolutely love. There are scenes in this film that come off kind of corny. Take, for instance, the ending. The ending is a little bit weird. The prop mannequin of Nancy's mom being pulled through the window doesn't look the best. Not a negative for me. Like I said, it adds to the charm of the film, but you know, new kids, like the new horror fans, might see that and be like, well, that was corny as fuck. And honestly, I can't argue with that. The ending's weird. The acting's kind of corny. The body count isn't that high, but you know, it's all about quality and not quantity in this film, in my opinion. And you know, it's an old movie. It's kind of dated, so like even with HD transfers, it still looks like an old grainy film because it is. And you know, some of the new horror fans might not be a fan of that, which I completely understand. A lot of the newcomers been watching stuff in 1080p, 4K, 6K, sometimes 8K. So, you know, whenever you're used to watching things in high definition and then you go back and watch some of the old films that still look grainy, aesthetically, it might not be pleasing to people that are used to seeing things in high definition. Those are the points that I will concede. These aren't negatives necessarily for me, but for other people that might be new to the franchise. But in my personal opinion, and with all of my biases fully on display here, this to me is a perfect film and I wouldn't change a fucking thing with it. So now that the review portion of this video is done, let's go ahead and move on to our next segment, which is... So there's a lot of really cool scenes, a lot of really cool visual scenes to pick from whenever it comes to this movie. And it was really hard to really pinpoint it down to what my favorite scene in this was. It definitely could have been Freddy coming through the walls. That was a really cool fucking scene and very iconic and just dope. You know, Glenn's death with the blood fountain shooting out of the bed, also a really good contender for one of my favorite scenes. But if I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna be Tina's death. You know, although this film didn't scare me whenever I first watched it as a kid, that scene always stuck with me. You know, watching her being dragged up the walls and being pulled across the ceiling, and then invisible claws clawing into the chest, and then her lifeless body being dropped from the ceiling to the ground, that really stuck with me as a kid. Probably shouldn't have watched this as a kid, but you know, hey, here we are. I think I turned out just fine. But you know, like I said earlier, in the practical effects department, it's a really good showcase of what you can do with an idea and then making that idea come to life by making a rotating room. Like, it turned out sick as fuck, and it's one of the most visceral scenes in the movie, and I love it, so therefore it is my favorite scene. So let's go ahead and score this bad boy and end the video. When it comes to A Nightmare on Elm Street, I give this film a solid 10 out of 10. It's a perfect movie to me. I believe this is the only film in the franchise that's going to have a perfect 10 out of 10. But I haven't rewatched them all yet, so, you know, my opinions may change. So that is just about going to do it for me. If you like the video, let me know by leaving me a like. Comment down below what you want to see on the channel next. I will do my best to accommodate. And until next time, my name is Nightshade. This has been The Night Shift, and I will see you in the next video. Stay spooky, my friends. Well, hi. I did a little bit of a lighting switch up. Usually it's pink with a light blue, and I went with red and green because of Freddy Krueger's sweater. That's the reason I chose the lighting palette that I did. However, this light, for whatever reason, doesn't like anything other than blue. So like the thing overheats, and I definitely need to get a replacement light for that, because this one that I keep back here never overheats, nothing. This one, on the other hand, is a son of a bitch whenever it comes to overheating. It's the only light that I own that overheats, and it's the same brand as the one back here. I don't understand. Really excited to be talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I already watched the first two, and later this week I'm going to watch 3 and 4. Maybe even squeeze 5 in there. See if I can't get ahead on these little movie reviews and stuff. So yeah, I'm excited though. I'm super pumped about it. And if you are still watching up to this point, congratulations, you've made it into the Spooky Squad. You watched the video all the way to the very, very end, and I commend you for it. It just goes to show that you are in fact a real one. So let me know that you are a real one by commenting Spooky Squad 2025 in the comments below. Let me know that you're out there. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here because I've got a lot more videos to film. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.